Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today, we're talking Lady C's book. That's right, we are in Meghan and Harry. We are finishing up chapter 10. If you're reading along with me, I'm picking up around page 315. Guys, future Jen here. I just finished recording. I had to go back and edit the intro because I just have to let you know you are in for a wild ride. I get real feisty in this episode. I talk about it a lot. And I probably go on for like 10 minutes about exactly why I despise these two. So buckle up, get ready, listen till the end. And can't wait to read your comments on this one. Thanks. You guys, so much to talk about in this one. And by the way, pay attention to the background pictures because she can't stop touching her hair. She can't stop playing with it. It just comes on the heels of the messy photo. Messy! Now we are in the she can't stop touching it photo. So enjoy these. These were requested. So thank you so much for that suggestion. If you have a suggestion for photos you'd like to see, leave them in the comments. Time frame discussed here is when they had gone to Canada for just a couple weeks and then came back to London to pretend like they were negotiating. I don't believe they had any intention of negotiating anything. They had their minds made up, and that's that. Who cares what anybody else, especially his family, thinks, right? So Lady C goes into Meghan a little bit more here and explains that she's grown into a fully empowered woman who respects no one. She doesn't expect anyone's person or position as much as she respects her right to forge her own path. So that fact shows when we take a look at her relationship interactions with the Queen. It was awe-inspiring to say the least. So this is where I love Lady C because she was explaining in her inside British circles, which I wish she had given more examples. She did not, but she says that Meghan treated the Queen as, quote, just another individual with whom she deals. But this attitude caused astonishment. Who does she think she is? I don't know why this continues to surprise me, but it does. Just the blatant sense of self, narcissism, the lack of respect to come into this family to basically, as we've learned, tell them they don't know what they're doing. You have a better way of doing things, to try to change everything right off the bat, to completely disrespect everybody in this family. It just makes me dislike her and Harry even more. Just reading this stuff and relearning this stuff. It's just a level of narcissism like I've never heard of or seen before. And again, in this chapter, Lady C, just like she did in the last video I was talking about, explains that if any of this ridiculousness is met with criticisms, immediately Meghan and Harry both throw themselves into that victim mode, and then they start throwing around those ist words that they love to throw around, like racism and sexism, things like that. They are the most self-centered, self-involved, egotistical, selfish egomaniacs I've ever seen in my entire life. Evil, horrible people, and I will never forgive them for what they did to the Queen in her final stage of life. I ask again, who in the world could support these two? People who do no research at all, that's who. Here you go right here. There's a million reasons I can't stand these two, but let me just read you this paragraph right here. You ready? Harry has this is page 316 if you're reading along with me. Sorry, I'm feisty today. Harry has a rabid and irrational hatred of the press, blaming it, as he does, for his mother's death, while Meghan had developed a hysterical antipathy toward their criticisms of her, declaring them to be based upon racism, sexism, misogyny, jealousy, envy, and anything else but fair comment. That is exactly one of my main beefs with them and their supporters, because there's no, hey, let's look at the facts. Let's look at these million accounts of their horrible behavior. Nope. All the ist words that they love to throw out, because why try to bother with logic if you can just throw those out and try to silence people? It's ridiculous. Okay. Her belief was so solid that she simply could not wrap her head around the fact that some of their criticisms might have merit. And you know what? That sounds like a narcissist to me, somebody who will never be, quote, wrong or never learn or change their behavior. Because why do that when you can just throw around these ist words and not learn a thing, change anything? Sounds silly, but think about everything we've been looking at recently, from the horrible fashions to the terrible hair choices, all of it. It just all goes into the quote, I know best. I won't listen to anybody else. My critics are haters or racist or sexist, whatever ist word you choose to throw at them. She can do no wrong in her own eyes. And that's the problem. And Harry's too stupid to say, this isn't right, and to have dumped her ass. Nope. And I don't feel sorry for him. He sucks too. In some ways, I hold him more accountable because it was his family that they did this to. I'm giving him a pass. He sucks. Just think about his relationship with his brother. He just threw it all away. That guy sucks. Okay, sorry. I'm feisty today, and these two are really pissing me off. Okay, Harry and Meghan now availed themselves of the opportunity to demean their opponents and present themselves as victims. Hey, it's their favorite narratives. They're victims, guys. They're victims. All right, so I don't get political here, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, but just know she did talk about Trudeau and how he was basically kissing their asses publicly, and he was offering things like sharing the cost of their protection, and apparently it did not sit well with the Canadians. Thank you, my northern brothers and sisters, for that. But as we know, Lady C goes on to explain, Harry and Meghan, of course, had no intention of residing permanently. I'm pissed today, so I'm mixing up all my words. Let me try that again. Okay. Harry and Meghan, of course, had no intention of residing permanently in Canada, but being skillful tacticians, I think she's given them too much credit, who understand their radical decamping from the UK would be more tolerable if their ultimate destination of California could be concealed beneath the fig leaf of a desire to reside in a Commonwealth country. I gotta go back and explain Lady C's. She apparently has all kinds of insider friends. She calls them the royal cousins, people she knows that are, connected to the royal family. So she was informed by royal cousins that Prince Philip was completely appalled at the way in which Meghan and Harry had tried to bring pressure to get their own way. He was happy not to participate in the Sandringham Summit. Now, she does go into the Sandringham Summit. Now, if you don't remember, that's where Harry came to meet with the Queen and William and Charles and some of the private secretaries, or the courtiers, I guess, were there. Harry did everything he could to try to meet with the Queen on his own, thinking he could smooth things over. She would be the softball, or whatever analogy you want to use, that I don't watch sports, but that. But he miscalculated. He's an idiot. So all I can think of is, remember in his stupid book, he's like, she had the wrong people around her, and it just pissed me off so bad. Hence part of the reason I'm so pissed today. He totally downplayed the role that the Queen had in her own life, like in making decisions. He made it seem like she was surrounded by the wrong people and they were the ones doing her bidding, and basically taking her intelligence, her decision making out of it. It's just so rude, and again, supported by his Instagram loving bitch wife who claims to be a feminist. She goes into this meeting and explains that Charles was distraught, that his efforts to include Meghan had come to this, and Harry had thrown them a curveball. Hey, look, another sports reference. While William was equally distraught that the brother with whom he loved and protected all his life could be behaving in what was regarded as foolhardy and a destructive manner. The Queen was disappointed that all the sterling possibilities of the union of Harry and Meghan gone nowhere, and the warmth, generosity, hospitality that the family and the public had shown to Meghan had meant so little. Harry himself felt like he was not being supported enough and was upset when it became apparent that he and Meghan would not be able to trip off to North America cut deals left, right, and center, and then trip back to Britain for a few photo ops, which would keep their earning potential topped up and generally just do as they pleased. Can you imagine the slap in the face that would be to King Charles? And I'm thinking of William and Catherine doing all these engagements and every day spending their lives doing this stuff. And here's Harry. Oh, I'll be bouncing in and out as I choose, but we still want protection and money and all the perks, just none of the work. So Lady C goes on to explain that they were being naive and brazen. It depends on your perspective there, but they could easily have trademarked something like their names, but no, they decided to trademark Sussex Royal and remember, try to launch like hundreds of tchotchkes with that name slapped on it, which of course the royal family had a problem with. You can't just slap that name on things and try to sell it. That's not a thing, you idiots. But they didn't even think about it. They just were so, full of themselves. What's the problem there, right? They'll make millions. They just were so arrogant, they thought, they'll prevail over precedents and the law. So at that meeting, it was January 2020, it was the Queen, Charles, William, and Harry, and they were deciding how to best proceed. Now, Lady C explains that the Queen was actually the most inclined to take a lenient view, aiming for the couple to achieve as many of their objectives as would be realistically possible without damaging the monarchy, even if it meant recalibrating some customs. So her attitude was reflected in her statement, explaining how important her family is to her. And remember, she put out a statement today. My family's had a very constructive discussions of the future of my grandson and his family. That statement. So again, this Lady C book was written, 3 years before Spare. And so now to think of this and to know, obviously, that the Queen was fighting for them, trying to help them. And then that jackass goes on to write about how she wasn't in control of things at the meeting. And she was surrounded by the wrong people that were leading her down the wrong path, or whatever bullshit statement he put in his stupid book. The part of this chapter that I absolutely love is how much Harry and Meghan miscalculated, everything. Harry has never led a country. He's never been elected to any position. He has no experience as a leader. He's only ever been a minor ranking army officer who helped to be the second son of the heir to the British throne. So she goes on and says, yes, he had some star quality, but he was a revered figure until his marriage. He started speaking up and we all figured out how stupid and full of himself he is and anti his family and everything else. He's just the worst. They're both the worst. Of course they found each other. They're a match made in hell. So again, what Dumb and Dumber miscalculated is that when Harry was a senior member of the royal family, he had a great position. This was enhanced by the perception that he had something which money couldn't buy. And added to this was his reputation for being a down-to-earth, affable guy. He also had physical attributes to shine within the role, and position plus personal assets have always have a positive effect. The position exaggerating the personal qualities and vice versa. She explains that once the hype gets out there and you start to believe it, then you get on rocky ground. The temptation is to overestimate your personal worth while denigrating the worldly advantage, which exaggerate it. It can become irresistible. And she does explain that Prince Philip and the Queen decided in the early days of their marriage that they would go on about their business as if none of the acclaim existed. Because you don't want to have your head turned. You don't want to lose focus of what's important. So imagine that. The Queen, which he's happily to, throw under the bus or whatever and disparage, she stayed true to her values and what she held important and didn't lose sight of what she was focused on. And Harry just found some broad and just decided to ditch his whole family for her. Took a page out of her playbook. Hey, when things don't work out, just ditch your family. It's fine. So Lady C explains that she was told by her inner circle that Harry's ambitions were simple enough. He wanted a happy wife, a happy family life with her. I'm also, well, this is her saying, she is also informed that Meghan's ambitions were also simple, albeit different. Money, 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 fame, all attention on me. Look here, look at me. I'm guessing those are hers. She doesn't really go into it. But one of my favorite parts of this chapter I'm going to read to you right now. Talking about Meghan, Lady C says, quote, "She often talks about change, but she has no cohesive overview, nor does she ever bog herself down in what the consequences of change would be. Change always brings about new problems, but these are never mentioned, much less defined, nor are the potential solutions addressed." Which perfectly aligns with what we read in books like Revenge and Courtiers and all the tales we've heard of horribly mistreating staff, yelling these demands like this, but with no real plan of action of how to get there. I heard a similar tale when she was guest editing Vogue. I mean, who cares about that magazine? But I do find it funny. I believe that some of the other people working there, their complaint was that she had tons of suggestions, but no real method to get there, no real clear path. Just saying words for the sake of saying them, right? We've heard the word salad quite a bit. So then Lady C goes into lots and lots of paragraphs about old money versus new money and the difference there of his family and then their perception as they gain money and stuff. She does explain that Meghan would have been categorized as, quote, a no money person. While she had made reasonable money following her success in Suits, she did not have enough to buy and furnish a decent sized house such as the one that she and Trevor used to rent and maintain a reasonable lifestyle, which is the acid test between new money and no money. She really was Cinderella at the ball. Lady C explains that she only enjoyed it in the last few years. Before that, she was dependent on men for a roof over her head and the wherewithal to have a halfway decent existence. Again, Lady C goes on to explain in British circles, they recoiled from her overt materialism and a demeanor which she might have thought was classy, but which they regarded as pretentious. So then she wraps up the chapter by explaining there is another interpretation with which to consider Meghan's behavior and why she failed so utterly to make friends in Britain. She might have decided from the word go or early on that she wanted no part of Harry's world. Although she was too canny to say so, the indications are that from well before the marriage, it was obvious to everyone and would therefore have also been clear to someone as bright as Meghan that she was unsuited to the role of royal duchess and that she was not fitting in comfortably to Harry's personal world. So she didn't make an effort with his friends, but then Lady C goes on, but when she wants something like to be with Harry, she'll make an effort between meeting him, marrying him, and to move from girlfriend to fiance, then to wife, strengthening the relationship with each passing day until they're an indestructible unit. Does she do all this, you ask? Well, Lady C explains, page 348, that she's extremely loving toward him, supremely tactile. I'm laughing because we've seen the claw. And even people who dislike her and doubt her sincerity will acknowledge that she covers him with love. That's called love bombing. That's something we're now taught to look out for. It's not good. Anyway, super good chapter. Thank you so much, Lady C. I'm loving your book so much. I am feisty today, so I hope you enjoyed this feisty recounting of the chapter. Guys, thanks so much for being here and supporting me. If you want to further support the show, definitely check out Patreon. We just did Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop and her court case. We've been talking about that over there. What else? I got one coming out on Hilaria Baldwin, so check that out. And lots on Hank and Skank, Harold and Fraud, Harry and Meghan. So check that out. That's patreon.com/ patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. We put out stuff every couple of days over there, so definitely check that out. I do want to give a huge thank you and shout out to my executive producers, which you can also become at patreon.com. So a huge thank you to Linda. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Paige and Teresa. Thank you, Mary and Amy. Thank you, Mr. K. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Shauna, Brenda. Thank you, Aaron and Frank. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Ann M. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Ann H. Thank you, Karen and Corey. Thank you, Kay King. Thank you, Glennis. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Dewey. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Adair Becker. Thank you, Erica. Thank you to Amber. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Barb G. Thank you, Diana LOL. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you to Allison B. Thank you, Jean. Lori. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you, KT. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you, Stromboli. Thank you, Catherine and Carla. Thank you to Loie. Thank you, Lucy H. Thank you, Georgia. And thank you, Susie. I'm so glad you're all here and supporting the show. I really appreciate it, and I couldn't do it without you. And again, check out Patreon if you want to become an executive producer, and I'll give you thank you as well.